Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for the seven-figure entrepreneur who's looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Now, normally my co-host would be joining me, the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire and all-around good guy, Ted Fells, but he's not going to be joining me today. He is participating in a celebrity golf outing, and I think he's Emily, I think he's glad that I'm not out there golfing with him because it would be a lot of lost golf balls and
he doesn't know it, but he's glad that I'm not out there either. So yeah, we could be here and just do the podcast.
Right. But Emily, I've committed. I'm just going to stay in my lane at this point, and I've just come to the reality that golf isn't there. That's not me right now. All right, but now Ted couldn't join us. We certainly wish him the best with this celebrity golf tournament. But still, it's going to be a fantastic episode. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 attributes of the next level leader, because you have a next level, right? In your business, could be income wise, could be staffing wise. You have a next level. And we're going to talk about what are those 5 attributes of the next level leader. Before we do that, please keep in mind, this is not your everyday podcast. We do things a little different here on this show. You can also, in addition to watching us on the Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those other podcasting platforms. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and that way you never miss an episode. So here we go. The 5 attributes of the next level leader. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for the hour. She is a C-suite executive turned leadership coach. She's the founder of Next Level Coaching. She's an ICF-Certified Coach. She helps business professionals step into effective leadership with one-on-one coaching. She's the author of 2 books, Hacking of Executive Leadership and An Insider's Perspective on the Chief of Staff. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour, Emily Sander.
Hello, good to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you. Truly an honor to have you on the 30-Minute Hour today. I did want to give everybody kind of the backdrop, the backstory. So tell us, what was the vision that you had for your career back when you were an undergrad at the University of Washington?
Well, that was the vision. I didn't know, which actually worried me quite a lot. I was like, I don't know what I want to be, but I will say that I knew I wanted to be elite. So whatever I did, I wanted to be the best at it. And I was very driven and hungry and ambitious. And it was funny because when I was in college and coming out of college, I was worried that I was falling behind because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so I just took these jobs here and there and kind of pieced it together. But the jobs here and there ended up being a tester for the first version of the Kindle at Amazon. And the here and there turned out to be getting in early with this company, this small to medium technology business, and growing with that company to, take over the international client management team. So it all worked out in the end. But at the time, I was freaking out a little bit because I didn't know.
That's interesting. So was there ever a time when you felt like you were off course or just not where you should be, or?
Sure. I mean, I wanted to progress in my career, right? I wanted to move up, and that sometimes wasn't happening as quickly as I wanted it to. But if you look at my career now, you'd say, oh, you moved at quite a rapid clip. But there were certain pockets where I was being impatient and said, this is not happening as quickly as I would like it to. So, but yeah, I drifted around. And so I always tell people, even if you aren't exactly where you think you want to be, or hey, a door closed on you and you thought that was the only thing that could get you to the next level or to your next step, there are 100 different ways that can come about. And there are 100 different things that you can't even conceive of right now, like you literally can't even think of, that are going to happen in your favor. So just be open to that.
Yeah, I think you just have to work off of the premise that everything is happening for you and not to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that everything's happening. Like a quick story for me, I shared this on one of our other podcasts and episodes. So years ago, I'm working through corporate America. I'm at this retail automotive location, and I'm ready to leave. I'm fed up. I want to leave the company. I'm like, oh, this is. I'm like, I'm not getting promoted. I'm not moving fast. I'm impatient, and so somebody had came and recruited me for another company. Said, hey, Eric, man, I've been watching you. I think you do a great job, and man, we'd love to have you with our company. Let's meet later this week, and we can put together an offer. But that's just a formality. I want to bring you on board. I'm like, oh man, great, this is excellent. So I meet with him, and then he says, well, there's been some changes. The company, there's been some changes, and I'm not going to be able to bring you on like I thought. So, but we'll stay in touch. And I'm like, oh, bummer. Yeah. I missed out on an opportunity. But then a few weeks later, the company I was at called me and offered me a promotion that was like 5 minutes from my house. And that just led to a whole series of just promotions that I would have missed had I gotten the opportunity that I wanted.
It all works out. All works out good.
Absolutely. I think people need to understand that, again, everything's happening for you. You just really have to be open to that things just work out. So if you could be a mentor to that younger version of yourself, what advice would you give?
Ooh, I would say worry less. So literally spend less of your life and less of your time worrying about things that are not in your control. So, I mean, I've probably spent months, if not years, in the hamster wheel of trying to make things happen and trying to figure things out. Knock that off. I wouldn't do that. I would also have, just as a business person, as a leader, as a founder of a company now, have a bias for done. Have a bias for done, not perfect. So I would consider myself a recovering perfectionist who wanted to be perfect all the time. And Eric, that's not a thing. That's not a real thing you can do. So dropping the perfectionism and going with, let me try to go into this with the right motivation and right approach, but let me have a bias for done.
So was it a thing where you just needed to feel like you had all the answers before you could really move forward? You needed to do all this research?
Yeah, I mean, I would go into meetings and I would literally have gone through like so many contingency plans for, if this person says this, I'll say this. And if this person says that, then I'm going to respond with this. And it was just, you can play that game forever, right? You can go to infinity with that. And it was just like, hey, you're prepared. You're on this team for a reason. And whatever comes up, you'll be able to handle. So just kind of focus on that and go into these different meetings and different conversations. And they went a lot better when I took that approach.
Yeah, one thing I always say is that you can't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress.
Yeah. Progress over perfection. There we go.
For sure. I like yours. Have a bias for done. There you
Yep.
go. That's great. But I think, Emily, I think you just helped somebody right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, the perfectionism is a big issue that's out there. So you made this transition, right? You went from C-suite, right? You were chief of staff to becoming now this leadership coach. So what inspired you to make this change?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been a coach and I kind of found what I already was. And once I figured out, the favorite parts of all of my corporate roles were those coaching aspects of the role, right? Working one-on-one with Jennifer to get her to speak up at team meetings more and give her confidence. I work with Christian, and he actually was my backfill for when I left for a director role. So, and he never thought of himself in that role. So there were these moments and these touch points with people that I really loved and stood out. And when I married that with, coaching is a thing, like coaching is a thing you can go get certified in and you can go do professionally, I put those together, and that was my jam. So I wanted to wake up and do nothing but my favorite part of the day, and I get to wake up and like help people be successful. So what can be better than that?
That was your jam. So let me ask you, when you were working, did you find that people would just come up to you and just start telling you these things?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was a coach slash therapist to some of my
Yeah.
some of my team and some of my colleagues for sure. For sure. So I fulfilled that role.
Yeah. Like I never forget, I'm getting my cell phone fixed at one of those stores, and the guy finds out I'm a coach, and then he just starts talking to me like 25 minutes. I'm thinking of starting my own business, but I don't know, and I have a plan. I got a partner. I got
Yeah. Here's my card. Here's my website. Yep.
right, right. But honestly though, I think that's a sign that you're built to be a coach. I think when people just start telling you their issues and their problems, they feel like they can open up to you, and they have that outlet, and you're going to listen.
Yeah, I like that phrase. I never heard it like that. I was built to be a coach, so yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right. So then you went on to become the founder of Next Level Coaching. I'm just curious, like, how did you land on that name, Next Level Coaching?
Yeah. So I'm always trying to get to my next level, and I'm never complacent. So I try to celebrate my wins, but I'm driven. I want to get better. I want to improve. I want to serve people well. And so that's just like a life philosophy and mantra I have. And for my coaching clients, certainly getting them to their next level, whatever that is for them. So, myriad of coaching topics and approaches, but whatever that is for them, my job is to understand where they're at now and where they want to get to, and then what will help them propel themselves up to that the best. And that's my job as a coach. So just helping people get to their next level every day.
Okay. And who's your typical target audience? And specifically, how do you help them to go from where they are to where they want to be?
Yeah, so I generally have three buckets. So the first one is founders and entrepreneurs who are looking to scale their business. So they're doing well and they've reached a point where I don't know how to scale it any bigger than this. I need help. The second bucket would be early executives in career transition. So, for instance, if someone just got to be a director role or a VP or even sometimes a C-suite, and they want some coaching to really be good in their new role. And the third one is chiefs of staff or their principals. So new chiefs of staff or chiefs of staff in a new company. I love working with those because I was one, and I also wrote one of my books on it. So chiefs of staff, and that's the thing too, where once I was a coach and I had former chief of staff in my resume and information, chiefs of staff started coming to me, and I was like, oh, I am a chief of staff coach. So that one just happened organically as well.
So what is there a common stumbling block that you see that really keeps these people from getting to their next level?
Yeah, I mean, there's several. I think the most common would be their own belief set. So people go off of like, here's the external situation, and I need this to change, and I need this person to stop being a jackhat. But really, the lens they have on, and they're viewing that situation and that person through, is dictating a lot of their action and a lot of their feelings. And so having a close look at that to see what you can control is powerful. But everyone has their lens on, right? Everyone has their biases, and so you've got to know that and know where your blind spots are. The other big one I would say is waiting for permission almost. So be proactive. You see something that needs to be done, go do it. Or go come to your boss and don't say, hey, I kind of saw this and I was thinking maybe we could do this, but just an idea. Can I do this? What's your thoughts? Go in them and say, hey, I was observing this in our team. We need a better streamlined process. So I came up with these 10 steps. I tried it out myself for the last week and I'm more efficient. What would it take to roll this out to the team? So you're going over the same information, but you're presenting it in a much different way.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because this is something I see. Do you see this taking ownership and really taking responsibility? Do you see that being an issue?
Oh yeah, in today's society, there's a lot of it's their fault, or woe is me, or I'm the victim. And certainly there are cases where that is a serious thing and needs to be addressed. But a lot of times it's, hey, what did you own in that situation? Or what were you responsible for in that situation? Or how did you contribute, even if it was small and it would have happened anyway? How did you contribute to the outcome that took place? And so really, I mean, you got to be able to look in yourself in the mirror and have a true look about what's going on and what you are adding positively to a conversation, to a situation, and what you are adding negatively, and make sure you're a net positive contribution.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't think of too many times where I've worked with someone as a coach and they're a client and they say, you know what, Eric, I'm the problem. It's me. It's I don't think I ever hear that, but I do hear, it's the economy. It's it's these millennials, Gen Z people that I'm hiring. They don't want to work.
That's the worst. And I will say, when you have like a victim mentality and you're kind of crying about it, and then you also have a sense of entitlement, that's a bad combo, guys. That's a bad combo, folks. So when you're like, oh, like everyone's out to get me, but you should give me a raise. Like, I'm not going to work hard. I'm going to be lazy because you don't deserve my hard work. But why didn't you give me a 20% raise? I'm going to be upset with you. Sometimes life doesn't work like that. Sometimes you have to go first and you have to do the work and put the blood, sweat, and tears in.
Yeah. But I think a key takeaway from this episode would be this idea of taking ownership. I think in any relationship, if the person isn't responding, whether it's an employee, whether it's a customer, I think the first place to look is in the mirror to say, okay, well, what is it that I'm doing that could be triggering this individual? What do I need to do different? I think there's just so much power in that.
Yeah. I think there's also a flip side too, where it's like, this person is going off and it has nothing to do with me. I just happen to be in the room or on the phone or whatever. And so to not take that, not take that in and have it hurt you on a personal, offensive front, but saying, okay, like, what's my responsibility? Let me hold this space, and just, this person needs to vent. Like, clearly this person has a lot going on. Let them vent and then redirect them to the direction you want them to go. But that's also sometimes your responsibility is, hey, this isn't about me. This is about them. Something's going on, and let me try to be the best partner in this conversation.
No, that's a great point, because the other side of that's an example of not taking it personally.
Yeah.
Understand that there's something going on with them that's causing them to respond. All right. So because everybody now, Emily, everybody's on the edge of their seat. They want to know, what are these 5 attributes of the next level leader? Let's start talking about that.
Yeah. So the first one I always say is adaptability, right? So market conditions, reorgs, customers can throw things at you from left field. So you have to be adaptable. And a quick story on this, I was listening to a podcast and they were interviewing Floyd Mayweather, who is like a champion boxer.
Yep.
I don't do boxing, I don't watch boxing, but he was top of his field. And so they were interviewing him. And the hosts were trying to get him to say why he was so good. So is it your training? Is it your diet? The quickness of your hands, all this stuff. And he finally said, no, it's my adaptability. I can adapt to any opponent, any round, and any punch better than anyone else. And that's what makes me the champion. And I was driving and I heard that. I was like mind exploding, because I can take that concept and absolutely lift and shift it, so to speak, into the business world and say, okay, am I adapting to who I'm communicating with the best? Am I adapting my leadership style to what this team needs now? So adaptability, I think, is huge for leaders.
So let's stop there, man. That Floyd Mayweather thing that's profound, because that's exactly what he does. He does adapt to the opponent. That doesn't do the same thing with everybody. So how can a leader improve? Let's say somebody's listening to us now and they say, you know what, I'm just not very adaptable. I don't have adaptable genes. What can someone do to become more adaptable?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is view change, like an unexpected change, as neutral. So when people hear, oh, like something changed, or I didn't expect that, they automatically slap a negative label on it. And then you have all these different connotations and subsequent things that happen from that. But if like, hey, okay, COVID, like certainly people getting sick and not being well, bad. But let me just stay neutral and stay grounded for my team. Because if you panic and you're like, oh, and you can't adapt well, you're not going to be able to lead others well. So see it as neutral. See, hey, we had this merger and acquisition announcement. I'm 90 days into this role and I didn't want to do a merger acquisition, but this is happening. Okay. So instead of being like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this happened to me, like I have such bad luck, all of these things. All right, this is a neutral event. And actually, like this could go well in a couple different ways for me. So let me be open to that too and just see where it goes. And so I think being adaptable in that way is one part. And another piece is just ask yourself, what does the team need from me right now? Or even what does this person need from me right now? And it could be very different. So you could have person A need something that person B doesn't, or you could have person A on Monday need something and then person A on Thursday needs something else. So what does this person need, or what does this situation call for right now?
Yeah, that's great. What does the situation call for now? What does this team need right now? Right, that reminds me, there was Herb Brooks was the coach of the 1980 Olympic hockey team. You know, the one that's everybody talks about. They beat the Russians, won the gold medal. So the funny thing was that when he prior to taking this assignment, he had coached at like the University of Minnesota, and at that assignment, he was known as a player's coach. Like, he was very friendly with the players, very, knew their family, very friendly with their family, very touchy feely like that. But he totally changed his style with the Olympic team, where he literally got them all to hate him. He just drove them, just totally changed his approach because he knew that's what they needed. So literally, they bonded together because they disliked him so much. And apparently, I think that's just a striking example of being adaptable and looking at the situations, like you said, seeing what the situation calls for.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. And it's also like, that's a good example because he knew he wasn't going to be liked. And so many of us like to be liked, right? That's human nature. Like, oh,
yeah.
But it's to your point. It's sometimes adapting and sometimes stepping up to the occasion. You're going to have to do things that you don't feel like doing. So you're going to have to be a leader in that situation. You might, if you're at a team meeting, someone starts mouthing off. Well, you might feel like mouthing back to them and saying, "Hey, buddy, two can play at that game. Let's go." But a leader would say, let me acknowledge a few things that he's saying and then get him calmed down and then get the team meeting back on track. So, be adaptable to what the situation calls for.
Oh, this is fantastic. Good stuff. So the first attribute is adaptability. All right, what's the second one?
Second one is self-awareness. So it's really hard to improve yourself if you're not aware of where you are today, right? So the first step of any habit changing process or any improvement process is being aware of the current state today. And then you can say, all right, what do I want the future state to look like? And then how do I get from point A to point B? But I would say that we talked about beliefs, right? So everyone has their lens on. So it's almost like a contact lens. So you're seeing the world through that lens and you're seeing the world through this certain belief set you have on. All of us have that. And all of us have blind spots too. So when you're talking about self-awareness, you often need a friend or a mentor or a coach to give you some objective feedback. And so being self-aware and doing some self-reflection, but also getting some feedback from others about how you're showing up and about what they're seeing, I think is key to top leaders. So if you just want to be, I'm above average, I'm doing okay, you can do a lot of that on your own. If you want to be exceptional, go ask people for feedback and say, what could I be doing differently? What things do you really resonate with and I should continue doing? Because you'll get some of those too, where you're like, oh, I didn't know Eric was picking up on that. Like I do that, take that for granted, but he appreciates that. Let me continue to do that. So just being self-aware about, again, different situations and about how you're showing up.
So I think, so from my experience, I welcome your input on this. I find that the challenge a lot of times is with CEOs, executives who have had a lot of success doing things the way they've been doing it. So they're less willing to change, So it is, for me, it takes doing a 360 survey with with
Yeah.
their team. So they really see how they're showing up. Because otherwise it's like, hey, you know what? This is working. I've had a 20% increase in this. Coach of the year. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. So what are your thoughts on that?
I love 360 feedback loops. I've had those done several times in my career. A little bit scary at first, but super insightful, right? You get so much good information. And I would say, if you're sitting there going, I'm perfect and I don't need to talk to anybody about how to change anything any of the time, then, you might want to check yourself on that one. Anyone can be wrong, right? So we ask people opinions. We have an opinion, but we can be wrong. And so going out there and getting some 360 feedback is key. And it's how you keep refining yourself. So you could be like, hey, overall, like I'm doing a good job. 80-90% of the time, I'm a great leader. I'm there for my team. But there's always fine tuning, right? There's always some refinement. And how can I get that edge? And when you go after those incremental improvements, you get that edge, then you pull away from the competition too, right? So as a leader, as a company, if you're continuing to invest in yourself and make those reinvestments and iterative improvements, you're going to pull away to the point where they can't catch you. So even if they ran as fast as they could, metaphorically, if you just consistently make those improvements to yourself and by extension your team, there's going to be a point where they can't even catch you.
Yeah, I think to your point, if you're always looking for that edge, you're always looking to get just 1% better, and you can take the feedback and see it as an opportunity just to get a little better, and ultimately, so those little inches add up, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. Okay, good stuff. So we got adaptability, we got self-awareness. What is next?
Next up, we have servant leadership. So servant leadership, this is like tossed around a lot in some circles, but really it's waking up and saying, not what's in it for me, how can I get ahead? Oh, I might have to crush that person or stab that person in the back to get what I want. That's fine. It's waking up and saying, how do I serve my team? How do I make someone's life easier today? What does Maria need today? Or what does, John over here need? Oh my gosh, John is going through a rough time. He's low on sleep. Let me see what I can take off his plate. So having a servant leader mentality, it's the giver's gain, right? This is talked about a lot. So in the currency of the universe, the more you give, the more you get. And so when you're trying to take and climb and push people down, you're making withdrawals from that universal bank, right? But when you're giving, you're making deposits and you're putting things out there to come back to you. And so being a servant leader, I think that's just a great approach. I've heard some people say, oh, isn't that soft? Isn't that nice if you're a servant leader? I'm like, oh, that's hard. First of all, it's hard stuff to be a servant leader. And secondly, it's hard to do that when it's going to cost you something. So when if I'm generous and giving in this situation, I might not get that promotion. I might not go as fast as I want to go in my career, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to help this person out and it's the right thing to do. When you do that, oh my gosh, understand, in the long run, you will come out ahead. Listen, I guarantee you, if you do that in the long run, maybe not in the short term, maybe it's a gut punch, that person got it. Now I have to watch them get, welcome to the team as the new VP of whatever. But in the long run, being a servant leader will serve the people around you well and will serve you well.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Zig Ziglar made it popular that when you get what you want by helping others to get what they want.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And so another sports comparison I have for that is the coach of Kentucky, John Calipari. Yeah, from day one, he said, you know what? My goal isn't to win a national championship. My goal is to get my players to the NBA, the next level. That's what he says. He always says, you know what? It's not about winning the championship. It's about getting these guys to the NBA. And so he's had people who play reserve roles for him that end up going to the NBA and doing very well. And he gets them to buy into this idea of, okay, I don't have to shoot all the time, and I can help the team. But that's his whole thing. And he's had people, he's had his best players leave when he's told them to leave, when it really would have helped him if they stayed.
Oh, yeah.
We said, no, you need to go to the NBA. You need to help your family. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine.
Good for him. Wow.
Where most coaches would be like, no, please stay.
Yeah, make you look good. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think that's an example of really plugging into, okay, what do they want and helping them accomplish their goal.
Yeah. And I mean, you're playing a bigger game at that level too, right? So recognize, yeah, like in this one little scenario, you might not be winning, but guess how loyal that person is going to be to you for the rest of your life.
No, absolutely.
Guess how much they're going to do if you need help or you want to brainstorm on something or anything. Guess how much they're going to be willing to do that. 100%, right? So they're going to be for you as well.
And so the opposite of that is, you'll have a boss, a supervisor that doesn't want to give too much of the second in command to the second in command because they might get promoted ahead of them, or people might see that person may be better than them. That's like the opposite of servant leadership.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of insecurity around that, right? So, and it's there for everyone. So everyone likes to, not be called out for doing a bad job. But to be honest, in the vast majority of cases, when you help a successor come into place, you are able to be promoted faster. So if you think about it, for you to move up, someone else has to take your spot. If your boss is like, there's no one else to backfill you, so I'm not moving you, well, that's a problem. So if you say, hey, actually, I'm going to showcase this person on my team and give them visibility and give them special projects, then that it just allows you to be much more easily lifted out to the next stage of your career.
For sure. Now, I think servant leadership is critical. All right, number 4.
Moving right along. We have decisiveness. So as a leader, one of the ways that one of your currencies is choices, right? So you get paid to make sometimes a few amount of high quality choices and decisions every day, right? So you have to be willing to step up to the plate. And as you move up in your leadership roles, the decisions get harder, right? They don't get easier. It's not a layup. It's here's the two options and one is bad and one is maybe a little less bad. Like, which one do we do, right? Or, hey, you're the CEO now. We have this problem. It's gone through the management team. It's gone through our directors, our VPs, our C-suite, and we don't know what to do. So this is like a complex situation, and we need you to make the final tie-breaking call. So as a leader, you have to be able to step into that and say, we're doing this. And knowing it might be wrong and it might blow up in your face, but still be willing to do that. Collect all the information you can. Think about it for as long as you can in that moment, but then make a decision. You have to make a decision and not just be paralyzed by fear.
Spot on. So, like I have several friends in the military, and they say that part of the training is they teach you how to make decisions when you have imperfect information.
Yes.
And so, and they teach you that best case scenario, you're going to have 70% of what you need to know. Best case scenario. So so most of the time you're working off of 30, 40, 50% of the full picture, but you're trained on how do I thin slice that and make the decision, and it ultimately can be the right decision.
Yeah. And sometimes even it's not the right decision per se, but you've made a decision. So then it allows something else to unfold, or like just the next step to take place. And so sometimes there's points where your team is just so like frenetic with just energy to do something, and having them hold still is hard. So it's like, hey, let's do this, just so everyone can rally around. Okay, let's do this. And then it puts us in position to make our next decision.
Yeah, this is good. Okay. We're coming down a home stretch on this. Number 5.
So communication. So I'm going to go off something you just said. You mentioned the military. There's this thing called commander's intent, and you probably heard about it, but it's in the military. It's used for generals or officers who need to let their teams know what their intent is. So what the commander's intent, what is the mission? What's the overall goal? What are we trying to do as a unit? And that's because in a military context, if the leader gets killed or the communication lines get cut, all the majors and all the sergeants and all the soldiers need to know what the intent of the mission was. And so communicating in that sense is important. And again, in business or probably in other areas, you can take that commander's intent element to it. And I think communication, you can talk about that in so many ways, but being open and transparent, giving people the information and context they need to make good decisions, right? So people are trying to make decisions in their role, in their day-to-day, but have you given them the big picture? Have you given them the why behind what the company is doing? Have you given them context for how they sit in where they sit in the organization and how what they do contributes to the success of the team and the overall organization? So you can talk about communication like that. You can also talk about communication in terms of adapting, right? So Eric, you like to communicate in one way. I like to communicate in one way. John and Ramon and Damien like to communicate in different ways. And so being able to say, hey, if I a good enough leader to flex my communication style and be flexible with who I'm talking to and communicate in a way that's gonna land best for them.
So it's interesting. I think people who struggle with communication, they feel like they're communicating, right? if you ask them, oh, I'm a great communicator. I told them everything they need to know, but so why is there that disconnect?
Yeah, well, again, so I would encourage people to take that 360 loop because, again, you'll get lots of good information off of that. But listen, there's 7 billion people on the earth.
Yep.
Not all of them are exactly like you. In fact, none of them are. So having the assumption that hey, I communicate like this and it's the best way, and everyone communicates like that is just it's not true. And so understanding, okay, maybe there's some themes or patterns or communication styles, certainly, but everyone's a little bit different. And again, that situational awareness and adaptability, maybe Damien likes to be communicated in general like this, but hey, he's super stressed right now, so I need to change up my communication. Or he's flying, he's on fire, I don't want to get in his way, I'm just going to give him bullet points and motivation and keep going. So figuring out again what they need, what the situation calls for, and decide what you want to do in that case.
Yeah, that's critical. And a lot of the next level leaders can size it up pretty quickly and say, okay, I need to communicate this. I mean, you see this with some of the former presidents we've had. They just intuitively know how to connect with the people that are in the room. They can be talking to somebody really high level. They can be talking to somebody at the town hall meeting who just lost their job. They know how to connect with that person. And they kind of pick it up just like that.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I think it's also, what does this person know? So am I talking at, too detailed a level or too high a level? And also, where is this person coming from? If they're, upset and they just lost their job, they're going to be in a certain state, right? Whereas if they've just gotten a new promotion and they have a new team and they're in a different state. So communication is one of those skills, I would say. You can invest in that over a lifetime and it will serve you well to do that, right? So you can always become a better communicator. Some people need an overhaul. They might think they're a good communicator, but if you ask your team, they're not going to make eye contact with you, and they're going to yeah, they communicate with me. Yeah, they sure do communicate with me. So you can always improve yourself and fine tune it. One tactical thing I'd say here is you can ask people how they want to be communicated to. A lot of my coaching clients come to me and say I have this team member and I have this colleague and I'm trying to do this and this and this. And I'm trying to figure out what works and what resonates. What do I do? And I'm well, first of all, what did they say when you asked them? And they're whoa, what? You could ask someone how they want to be communicated. You're
wait a minute.
Yeah, hold the phone. When I have a company update, and it's having to do with your team or something that's directly related to you, how do you want me to communicate that to you? Is it better in person so we can talk it through? Is it no, just shoot me a quick Slack, IM or whatever, or I can hear about it at the team meeting. You're good at those. What will resonate and help you best? And so just ask people.
All right. So again, we're talking about the 5 attributes of the next level leader. You said adaptability,
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness, servant leadership, decisiveness, and communication.
There we go.
All right. Now that was really good. Hopefully, people were taking notes and apply these attributes so they can get to the next level. So, and Emily, I know you get asked a lot of questions all
Yeah.
the time on different things. I'm just curious, like what's one question that you never get asked, but you wish people would ask you?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's a good one. Okay, so something that just came up for that is if you're listening to this and you have a team or a colleague or just at home or whatever, what question do you think they want to be asked? So your family, your community, your team, your company, what question do you think they wish that you asked them? So as we're the boss or we're the leader and we're like, let me tell you information. Let me just tell you and have a one-way conversation. But if you ever ask someone like, what do you wish I ask you? That's a powerful approach and powerful question in itself. And so I would just throw that out there to the people to really consider and say, okay, where can I apply this? Where can I not assume as much and actually ask the question? Because sometimes, like I've been in situations where I'm on a team and I'm like, God, I wish they asked me my opinion. I wish they cared about what I thought about
Mm,
this. I wished someone just cared enough to ask or even do like a survey or like let me type something or give a score or anything. But have a think about that I can almost guarantee you that someone is sitting there going, gosh, darn it, I wish they would just ask about this. I wish they cared about my opinion. I have ideas. I have things I want to say. So that's what I would say. Let me try to answer the question for me though. What do I wish people asked me? Um, I think it's just something around the motivation. So why do I do what I do? I mean, a lot of
mm,
people are like, it's great that you started your own business, and that is fantastic. It's been a huge adventure, and I've grown a lot. But I like talking about why I do something because I think people like to know people's motivation and intention behind things.
yeah.
And coaching for me connects to my purpose, right? So and my worldview. So I believe that we're all put here for a certain reason. And we've also been given a unique set of talents and skills and different things we're inclined to do. And so finding that is important because when you're in that state and when you're in that kind of flow, things just come naturally to you, and you're in your purpose, and it's almost like being in a river that just carries you away and carries you forward. And so when you're in that and when you're optimizing that and not fighting it, you also serve the people around you better. So we talked about servant leadership. So I feel like when I'm coaching, that's what I was built to do, right? That's what I meant to do. And that's how I help other people best. And that's how I contribute best. So I would say, um, and one more thing there, I'm helping people reach their potential. And if you think about it, if everyone for like a year was maxing out on their potential and maxing out on what they were supposed to be doing, or just even a little bit closer, if everyone for a year did that, the world would be a different place, right? The world just would. It would operate differently. People would behave differently. It would just have a different kind of tone or texture to it. So I think for me, always coming back to that and connecting with the why and the purpose behind it is important. So when I'm sitting there going, I have literally like I have 24 things I could be doing right now, but why am I doing this again? What connects me to my purpose is important.
Mm.
And then that also helps me say, oh, okay, it is these coaching calls. It is talking with these people, these podcast hosts who I never would connect with otherwise, but it's really being in the moment and being present and appreciating those things.
That's a great answer. That, that's like one of the better answers I've heard to that question.
There we go. Love it.
No, that's good. So really, so it's about your why. People should really
Yeah.
kind of understand why you're doing
Yeah.
what you're doing, and starting with why. So you hit on potential, maximizing potential.
Hmm.
What percentage of people that you come across would you say are really hitting their potential, maximizing their potential?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, people come to me are driven, right? So
Okay.
when you're looking for a coach, you're looking for someone to help make you better. So iron sharpens iron, and they're looking for that edge.
Yeah.
But all of them know, like, hey, I have limitations, or I have self-imposed, restrictions, and I want to bust through those. And so they come to me with that. So I'd say almost all of them
Okay.
have that, but yeah, and I think that's not a bad thing too, right? So it's not a bad thing to come into a conversation or come into a relationship with that approach.
So they have a certain hunger. They're trying to get to the next level, and they want you to help them get there. So, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we're now down to the final segment. It's called Write This Down. Right. And this is where we'll each share at least one thing from this episode that we feel that people need to write down so they can level up, so they can get to their next level. All right, Emily, so you're the guest of honor. What do the people need to write down?
I would say take inventory of your belief set. So everything you do today, everything you see, everything you look at is colored by this contact lens you have in. So if you think about, like, if you had a blue contact lens in, everything you would see would be a blue tint, right? If you change the color to red, everything would be red. So what lenses are you looking through now? It could be things like, the world is a dangerous place and I should trust no one. Okay, so if you have that worldview, you're going to approach certain situations and certain people in one way. Now, sometimes it would be good and prudent to have that lens on, but sometimes it might be, what I get is based on what I give in the universe. And there are good people out there, and people have goodness in them. Okay, so if you put that lens on, you're going to show up in a conversation or in a team meeting very differently, right? So I would definitely take inventory of what beliefs you have on. And one quick way to kind of reverse engineer yourself into that is, it goes, beliefs cause you feelings, and the feelings cause action. And so if you reverse engineer that and say, what was the observable action in this conversation with my friend? Okay, and so because I took that action, what was I feeling at that time? Okay, so what would I have to believe about that situation to make me feel that way? So we talked about it at the beginning, where it's a victim mentality. Oh, they must be doing this to me, like they're doing this to make me look bad. Okay, maybe that's one possibility out of thousands, but it's also, oh, like, hey, they could be doing this to try to help me. Like, maybe they're trying to give me some feedback because they think that's what's going to help me be better, and they actually think I'm one of the high potential people on this team. So, whatever it is there, I would take inventory of that, because it will literally rewrite your reality. It's that powerful. It could change your whole life.
No, that's really looking at the lens that you're looking. So we don't see people with the saying that we don't see people as they are, we see people as we are.
Yeah. And if I could throw one more out, so I'll give you a 2-for-1 here. So the other one would be, write this down, is, what are you going to regret more? Trying something and failing, and I put that in quotes, or getting to the end of your life where you don't have time left to try things, and regretting that you didn't do something, and never knowing for sure if you did that. If you had put all the chips on the table, what could you have done, and not doing that. So, me starting this business, or me doing things that are new to me and scary to me, I'm like, hey, I could get out there and fall on my face, and I have several times, but I am not going to sign up for, oh, I could have done that, or, oh, if I just tried, maybe it would have gone this way. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. No way am I allowing that to happen. So ask yourself, which pain is greater? The short-term pain of, okay, maybe I looked a little funny doing this for the first couple times, or the pain of regret, like lasting, unchangeable regret.
Man, that's powerful. That is powerful. Which one will you regret more? And we tend to regret what we didn't try more so than the attempts that we tried at. You don't regret trying and failing.
Yeah. And people ask me, like, Emily, like, don't you care about, when I first got on podcasts, like, don't you care about podcasting? And like, you get so nervous, you sweat. You get so nervous, your voice quivers, and like, you look like an idiot. And like, don't you care about that? And I'm like, I do, like, it's not great. It's not a good feeling, but I also care about, maybe someone will pick up one little thing I said and that'll help them, right? I care about that more. I care about, the first couple podcasts I did were not great. Like they just weren't. If you go back, you can listen to some of those on my website. But I'm not going to say hate myself. That's way too strong. But I would seriously feel regret, like a large amount of regret, if I knew that I just avoided that. If I said, nope, I'm scared, I'm not good at it, I'm not going to do any more podcasts, because now here I am 2 years later, and I love jumping on podcasts, and I wouldn't have gotten to talk to you, and I would have gotten to connect with so many people and your listeners. And that's just like, Emily, come on, got to play bigger than that.
For sure. That's great. Right. Hopefully you wrote that down. So for me, as far as write this down, I think there's a theme. Even that goes through these 5 attributes we've been talking about. I think you have to be open to change. I just think that's critical. You have to be open to change. And it's like I've been reading this book lately. It's called 10x is greater than 2x. And it's by Dan Sullivan, is another author. And the whole premise of the book is that, like, if you're just making, let's say, incremental changes, you're just trying to 2x your results. You're trying to get to the next level, but it's a shorter climb. You can keep doing 80% of what you're doing, and ultimately you'll get to 2x. If you apply some other things, you only have to change 20% of what you're doing. But if you're really trying to get to the next level, if you're trying to 10x your results, you're trying to get to 7-figure entrepreneur, you literally have to change like 80% of what you're doing.
Yeah. Wow.
Like you have to be open to that level of radical change to really get to that next level. I mean, it has everything to do with what we talked about. Are you adaptable? Are you self-aware? You have to be open to feedback. And then actually, knowing what's going to help me, and then what do I need, what's not accurate, what's not relevant for my situation. So I think that to write this down, you have to be open to change if you're looking to get to the next level.
I like that. Yeah. And I also think it's, to your point, it's, if you're getting the same results, you don't like those results, you have to do something different. And sometimes it's drastically different and like frighteningly different, but you have to change your action and what your inputs are to get a different output, right? So if you're like, I don't like my job and I'm not getting paid enough and no one treats me with respect, well, again, ownership, right? And what actions do I have to change, and almost like just, by sheer willpower, change the direction of that to get me different results. So yeah, I love that one.
For sure. Okay, Emily, thank you for everything you shared. How can the people best connect with you?
Yes, so you can go to my website. It's kind of the hub of all the information. So it's www.nextlevel.coach. So next level, all one word, .coach. And you've got links to my book there, a link to my podcast. So I have a podcast called Leveraging Leadership, and some free resources and downloads and things like that.
All right. And your book, Hacking Executive Leadership and an Insider's Perspective on the Chief of Staff.
Yeah, pick those up. They got some good frameworks. We touched on a few of them, but they have some good leadership frameworks in there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, thank you, Emily Sander, for sharing everything that you shared. And as far as our audience, don't forget to share the show. Don't keep this episode a secret. Make sure Emily got great content and models and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure you're sharing this episode everywhere. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any of those other places that you listen to podcasts. That way you will never miss an episode. Thank you again, Emily Sander. This concludes this week's episode of the 30 Minute Hour Podcast. Until next time, have a great one.